Right. Welcome to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder. And if you've been following the headlines, you know there's been quite a stir here in Florida when the Florida Department of Transportation launched a sweeping crackdown, painting over all non-standard crosswalks and street murals. I can't talk today. Starting with the overnight erasure of the Rainbow Crosswalk outside the Pulse Memorial in Orlando. If there's one thing you don't do in Orlando is mess with our rainbows. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer issued a statement saying this callous action of hastily removing part of a memorial to what was at the time our nation's largest mass shooting without any supporting safety data or discussion is a cruel political act. My guest today has found himself caught up in the middle of the ongoing controversy as an Orlando creative force whose bold public art is now being literally blacked out. I've known Skip since back in his hip-hop musical days. He's part of Orlando's B-Side Artists, a group that is collectively leaving its mark on this city's culture through art and music in transformational ways. When I saw the news that Skip's own murals were being targeted, I knew from his 2019 album Until the Very End that he has always been a passionate and creative political agitator. I'll be sure to play some of the tracks on today's show. It's not surprising to anyone who knows Skip, whose street-integrated murals have become part of Orlando's cultural landscape, that he hasn't held back in his critique of the state. In The Bungalower, he described the FDOT's move as a bully tactic, a misuse of taxpayer money, and a pointed attack on queer, Black, and BIPOC expression. He's pledged to continue creating pieces through his company, a pivotal character artworks, in opposition to fascist autocratic bullying of minority groups. Skip and I go way back. We once worked together in the heyday of Dandelion Community Cafe, and from those early days to now, I've always been impressed with his passion and his multidisciplinary talent. Sorry, I'm taking a breath. Such a good intro. I know. I'm so excited for this show. In this conversation for the common good, we'll dive into his personal reaction, the broader implications for public art and society, and what other projects are on his horizon. Skip, it's great to see you again after all these years. Welcome to Front Porch Radio.
I'm back. Can you turn my headphones up a little bit, please?
I think there's a knob right next.
Yeah, I have it maxed up. I don't really hear anything.
Oh man,
Is my mic on?
Your mic is on. I hear you
Awesome.
loud. And what headphones? This one? Okay, is that better?
Check. All right, cool. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay. Wow, mine went way up then
Yeah.
too. WPRK, where you can just do whatever you want.
Hey, we're working it out. We're figuring it out.
We're not professionals here. We are community.
I think people would
DJ.
like WPRK less if it was always working correctly.
Yeah, actually, when we came in today, the automation was completely off, and so that was quite a. We had to call the people, and he got it working again. But yeah, WPRK, man, this is the best in basement radio.
A long time ago, I used to be a sub DJ to come in and take over people's shows, usually in the late shift.
Of
and
course.
they would just let me play whatever I wanted and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and you can play explicit music at that time too.
Yes.
Which we were trying to find some tracks for today's show that weren't
explicit
on your album.
Hey.
And I was like, oh man, that one's got an F-bomb in it. Darn.
I think I do have a clean version of my album. It's interesting, that album, because like that album was released in 2000 and
2019. It says 2019.
Oh, that's the re-release date.
Okay.
The original was originally released, I think, in 2010.
Okay. Wow. That is like. That's back when. Yeah, you released that when you were you working at Dandelion?
I think I was working on it while I was at Dandelion.
That's right. Yeah, that's crazy. And I think about as I was looking at the album online, I was like, man, Spotify and all these streaming services, they didn't even exist at that time.
Nope.
So that a lot of the artists that had their kind of start and would have had a lot more streams if it was existing, they don't have as, you think about artists like Jewel and stuff like that, and people
I think of artists like Soliloquists of Sound,
right,
with what they were doing conceptually with their artwork, how they were performing, how their personalities in their live stage personalities were so over the top in both their theatricality, their concept, but also in their execution, that adding modern day social media and TikToks and all of that with it, they would have been giant, legend, like worldwide. That's why like those types of individuals, those people in that group from the Soliloquist are right now working with Lauryn Hill, working with some of like the biggest people in the industry, like Da Vinci, he's like always out and about, like on tour with Miss Hill and Wu-Tang and like all of these giant names.
And he's my neighbor, so he casually came by the other day and was like,
Yeah.
like, hey, can I pick up some of your mulch? And I was like, absolutely. He was at the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary
Hanging out
freaking
with
show.
Will Ferrell and stuff. Yeah.
So insane.
So, but these are our legends, and a lot of people, they don't know about it because it would happen at a very interesting intersection where we started these careers, these like explorations of putting out albums and trying to be able to do enough of it to keep on perpetually making more, to like survive this just kind of selling CDs out of your backpack and,
you guys were hustling
touring and like living in vans and going, from city to city and stuff like that. And then the internet kind of started or whatever. And, for a while it made things a lot more difficult. And, like now there's a whole new world of people who are coming up like with social media being a part of that. And yeah, it's like one of those things like, there was a phenomenon right before, Blu-rays became really popular where, you could get all of this stuff on DVD, but there are a lot of movies that in like a 3-4 year period of time never got a Blu-ray release. Like you could get them on DVD, but before people became a lot more accustomed to just buying and making thing and printing everything on Blu-ray, there are some amazing, amazing movies that just never got a Blu-ray conversion.
It's such a weird thing how technology changes and transforms as a constant. And then, just being able to kind of reinvent things later on. I'm excited to be able to play some of your songs during the show because they are so on board. I was like, oh my God, which track are we going to play? Like he's, and when I did see that that your mural, like I think I saw was Orlando Sentinel, maybe a bungalow, several people have been writing about your murals. And I was like, oh, they done picked the exact right dude.
Yeah. I wrote an album about all of this back in 2010 and released it, and everyone was like, this is a little silly with how over the top it is. And then now it's like, it's weird. It's weird to talk about an album when I don't do music anymore.
Right.
And an album from 2010, and it comes up in conversations that I do not start or initiate often.
Yeah.
But it's okay because I don't feel weird about it. I am in love with that album. I have a completely separate and disassociated relationship with that album.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I made it. Like I get to enjoy that album from a listener.
Yeah.
And then I have this weird also story to go along with it that, hey, I actually made this thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just like this amateur like thing that happened. Like it is a fully amazing, like I can't believe you only made
quality. But yeah, and the quality of that album too, the recording, and I made it in my bedroom with my friends coming over and recording, but like these just happen to be friends who work with some of the most amazing bands and groups and organizations worldwide. It's just absolute gratitude and just being so fortunate to have relationships with these people, to be able to know these people, much less be able to create music with these people. And it was a crazy time, and poured so much love, and like it was like the whole album forced me to grow and become a better person, like a more evolved, or I don't know, better sounds weird, but like just to grow up.
You were young.
I was young,
super baby at that
and
time.
it was like I wasn't ready to make that album until I actually like forced some of my bad perspectives, like my immature upbringing, like and just to look at things from a more empathetic and understanding perspective.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In order to even be able to feel what I needed to feel to create that album with the messages and the voice, the narrative, the story, everything like that.
Yeah, the point of view. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was an era, a really good era, actually.
And Dodger and Post Records.
Yeah.
Oh, I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Sean Moore from Dodger and the Heathens played strings on that album. And it was like having, I don't know, it's so weird. And I guess it's not parasocial, because parasocial would be a relationship that you would only have like online. But like to have like friends or people that like within the local sphere, that when you're in the same room as them, like you have this like weird nervousness to kind of just be around them or whatever. And yeah, him and the guys from the Heathens and Matt Cam and all that. Yeah, they were like,
it was a time.
Yep.
It was a moment. All right, so let's kind of get into like this moment that we're in, because the news first broke over the Pulse, the rainbow crosswalks
Right.
out of the Pulse. Did you kind of hear about that? And then what was your reaction? And then did you ever think it was gonna like bleed into the art murals that you've done in the
Right.
city?
Yeah, I had heard the week leading up to it, I had heard kind of murmuring from different sources and stuff and it sounds like I'm not like a journalist or a spy or anything. There's just like people within the art world, people within the city government that I have relationships, whatever, like they're just talking about how this is something that's kind of people are talking about and it looks like something that might become a reality. Not specific like, hey, this one crosswalk, but just so like in general, like I had already lost like a $30,000 job that I was approached to do an intersection mural for a climate change foundation, and we were about to sign the contract, and then they were like, "Hey, we're hearing all this stuff about the regulations changing. We want to hold off on this project until we kind of figure out where we're going to land." So that was like I was about to sign a $30,000 contract. You know what I'm saying? Like that's money out of my pocket for sure. So there was a nervousness and anxiety of just kind of not knowing where things were going to land in that department. And then like it happened very quickly. I think a lot of people expected that it would happen in some kind of a legislative approach, or would happen on some kind of a grand public force, show of force kind of a thing, some big to do, some giant press conference, cutting some ribbon, burning some flag or whatever, DeSantis burning the American flag or the queer flag probably. But it really just happened very like overnight, with no pomp and circumstance. It was just kind of like a black ops kind of a thing.
Yeah, it was a very cowardly, honestly, way to do it.
I mean, I don't know how these guys think. I mean, they are such bullies, like they are the kid with the magnifying glass against an anthill. But they both want to be praised, and they all want to be able to pat themselves on the back for these actions. And yet the way that they do it, even with being in absolute power, is just absolutely cowardless and spineless.
Yeah,
I mean, if there ever was a spineless individual, it's Governor Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I can concur with that from everything.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, we can't get an X-ray, but yeah. So this is it has come down. It's not even gone through the legislative process. It's not an actual law that was enacted. It's actually just a rule that he enacted. Which, with all of the things that they're doing with a statewide DOGE, whatever they call it, trying to find all the waste in the state, which, as we just saw with the Alcatraz concentration camp, that was a complete waste. It's now been shut down because obviously, completely illegal operation.
Well, an interesting aspect of that is that, so a lot of people I'm watching online, because there's a lot of people talking about it right now. So here is some inside information, or at least context, to be able to understand why what's happening right now, specifically with my murals, is so absurd. Mm-hmm. And that's because there is 4 giant intersection murals. Those are the circular murals that's going down Orange Avenue, as well as I think like 8 or 9 different intersections in the downtown area that have 4 crosswalks per intersection, right? 100% funded by the Bloomberg Foundation. It's a philanthropy organization that has a traffic safety initiative nationally, in which they take applications from cities to be able to fund putting artwork in high traffic areas of crossroads and intersections. And they have a giant study to go behind it to show how it actually increases traffic and pedestrian safety in those areas where there is more artwork on the street there, right? So this is not a state or federally funded creative project.
Right.
This is 100% funded by an outside foundation,
Mhm.
right?
But
so
it's
all of
but
the
it
money
was
that's being spent to take down these murals, that is state funding,
right.
right? So when we're talking about the waste of taxpayer money, there's been a lot of people who had been, politely corrected that were like, oh, it's so stupid that we use state funds to even do these murals in the first place. Apologies, friend, but like, this is not an example of that. Like, you could have that conversation if you wanted to on another project, but this is a giant investment in downtown Orlando for the public safety of drivers and pedestrians and bike riders in the city that is the national leader in pedestrian and bike rider deaths and casualties. So like, if anything, this is a outside source that is helping making Orlando not just more beautiful,
Right.
but also safer. And what we have is a state power, an autocratic, authoritarian state power stepping in order to take something away that they did not even help make or pay for. They're spending state funds to do it, and they are making people in Orlando and Central Florida less safe by doing it.
And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of read something that State Representative Dr. Ana Escamani, who's been on our program before, she's quoting the Orlando Sentinel here. But the city, it's saying that the city added bright murals and decorative crosswalks at 4 intersections in Orange Avenue in downtown last year. Since then, foot traffic nearly tripled at those sections of the busy road, yet the rate of conflicts with vehicles plunged about 65%, according to an Orlando Sentinel analysis of the city data. And the Rainbow Crosswalk by the former Pulse nightclub, painted in 2017 to help honor the 49 people slain there a year earlier, there were just 4 crashes in the 8 years since the colors were put down. So that's pretty, and then also these were also FDOT approved projects. It went through a process to be approved and even celebrated on the FDOT websites.
That's another element that I think people don't understand, just based off of anecdotal experiences online with these commenters, is that like these were all, they present it with an attitude saying like almost this is like some kind of a rogue project. Every one of these intersection murals, every one of these crosswalks, whether it is in Orlando, whether it is the checkered flag that's over in Daytona, whether it is a Black Lives mural, every one of these murals, if it's put in a public city street, it has been permitted, and it has all been permitted and approved on a state level.
Right.
And following state guidelines that existed at the time.
So I want to be kind of clear, because you're not the artist that was doing the actual Pulse rainbow,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, that's not me.
So tell everyone which murals were yours and which of them have been erased. Have they all been erased? Or are they all going to be erased?
Right.
I don't even know where it's at right now, because
Okay,
everything's
so
moving so fast.
If you're in the downtown area and you're headed south on Orange, there's 4 intersection murals. That means in the middle of the intersection, circular, I think it was Washington, Robinson, Central, and Church. One was a swan, one was a fountain, one was a kind of a tapestry, and then the other was a heart. And then, so those were mine. And then there were a number of crosswalks. I think it was like 9 different intersections that had fountains and had orange slices on them. And all of those, and there were, step offs and bus lanes and things like that were incorporated with those designs.
Right. Yeah. And so like, knowing your very early kind of political awakening and voice for essentially, societal and political critique. I mean, that's been there the entire, since I've known you, right? And then here you are. It's so hard as an artist. I mean, I know the hustling days for you,
Yeah.
And so here you have, I've just been watching you from afar because, I'm a single mom. I don't get out much these days. And I'm like watching on social media. I'm like, oh, there goes Skip again. Look at that. Look at him doing some incredible, amazing stuff. That is like, I'm like, this guy's got to be making some bills doing some of these murals.
I'm paying some bills.
And I'm sure, And so I've been so proud to see that you have been able to turn your art into something that has actually, turned you from starving artist to somebody who can pay the bills, right? and now
the
you're like
American dream.
now you're like losing $30,000 contracts because of
Oh yeah, that's a whole different good kind of stress to it. Yeah.
you know. And so I'm just like, what is your like, slightly, I was gonna say unfiltered, but maybe slightly filtered because we are on the air.
Right.
But like, I mean, you have all of these facts and stuff like that, but as an artist, like as the person watching this blackout happen to your artwork, I mean, there's also like, also students, like little kids whose artwork on the side of the road are being,
Yeah.
blacked out. Like as an artist, like what is the emotion there?
Well, I mean, there's two very strong emotions. One being that, there's a upfront personal kind of reactionary of being like from the position of the person who made it, and being, hurt or offended or whatever. But also at the same time, like this is merely like a watershed moment, and it is a sign, a public sign of a larger systematic problem of, living within the imperial core during a time of the upward mobility of fascism, and being a bootlegger and how that can, positively affect your life. And so, like there's a gratitude of being able to be a part of it in the first place. There's acknowledgement that at the end of the day, there are people who are being kidnapped and black bagged off the street and sent into concentration camps abroad. There are people who are being pulled off the street as we create our own concentration camps here at home, i.e. the alligator Alcatraz over in the Everglades. And that, like my artwork being scrubbed over is, like the smallest thing on the list. But yeah, I mean, I do have a personal attachment to it and disappointment, but also at the end of the day, I just have this like, I'm autistic and I just cannot absolutely stand the injustice of someone coming and telling a group of people what they can and can't do, especially with something as banal as public artwork. And the entire intention of that, like I said, not only just to make people more safe, but like that type of artwork, it is not my normal consistent fare of what it is that I would create for my own self. There is, in all of that artwork, there is no political backline. There is no subtle context of innuendo or some kind of a critique on a larger level. It is literally just artwork that makes you feel good. It's
Right.
just nice. It's
Yeah.
just pretty. But what that does is it creates a colorful relationship that you have with your daily routine as you interact with the downtown area of Orlando. It is a romantic connection. It might as well be a tree full of flowers. It might as well be a butterfly garden. It might as well be some beautiful aspect that just makes the gray tones and the neutral tones and the oil spills and the smell of garbage or whatever it is that you have in any kind of an industrialized space or a city environment, and it makes it a little bit more of a retreat, a little bit more of a softening of the hard edges of everyday life. And that artwork, it was put there for people. It was put there for people to be able to connect with and enjoy and to make their day better and make their life a little bit better in that small way. And then you have, this person, so what I'm doing consciously is trying not to swear.
Right.
So like for anybody listening on the radio right now, being honest and also being expressive while also self-censoring is a highly extreme mental game that you're playing constantly. So yes, this person, Ron DeSantis, the guy that we're talking about, to come along and to tell other people what their day should be like or what their connection to their city or state should be. And it is abuse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. And one
abuse of power specifically.
Yeah, abuse of power, but because what I just want to point out what you just said, that even though this started with it was like they pinpointed what's the cruelest thing we can do, which is paint over the Pulse crosswalk, which I have loved. Let's just mention all of the people that have been chalking and painting. I think that It's been painted 3 times and it painted over again 3 times. People are being arrested. I mean, it is like a whole thing. And so while that was the absolute, and it is, I mean, let's just call a spade, is absolutely the cruelest thing that you could come out the gate with, because Pulse was an incredible tragedy that our entire town went through, and specifically those families that are still reeling, and
Right.
and the amount of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma that is happening to those families cannot go unremarked here. But then it has taken this turn where, like you said, the artwork that you did in this city, the murals that you did in these different crosswalks, they weren't rainbows, they weren't political, they were swans and hearts and things like that, and it wasn't any kind of political messaging
Right.
whatsoever. So this is not just a political attack on the LGBTQ plus movement and community, but it's just an attack on art itself,
Right.
which is one of the when they say here are the signs of a fascist authoritarian regime, one of them is suppressing of the arts.
Well, it's also, there's some interesting Venn diagrams there. You're absolutely right with that. I do have my own personal feelings that they started with the rainbows, the queer murals, and the Black Lives Matter murals first, and then once there was a completely, like, how could you not expect that there would be such a negative reaction to that, right? And then they kind of went down the line with everything else. Oh, well, it's not just that. We're also going to do all these other ones, for consistency and thoroughness. But I mean, there is an unmistakable Venn diagram if with LGBTQ people and artists in the art world, right?
Of course, yeah.
You can literally throw a rock at either one of them, you're going to hit both of them,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that even though there is not necessarily any kind of a messaging or any kind of a political activism that goes in with the murals that we're talking about today, the ones in the downtown Orlando area that I did, it still is a representation of the people in the community that live there,
Right.
Which include both straight people and queer people, like people of all different types of people. It is a representative of them. And it's really, for me, I hate that this is happening, but also at the same time, what this is doing is just kicking a wasp's nest.
Right.
Like, you are literally just being mean to people for the sake of being mean to people, and
wasting money while doing
it. And like, public optics is just such a huge part of being a politician, even on a borderline fascist autocratic environment that we're living in. Like, it's just overly indulgent with being evil and maniacal.
Right.
And all that's going to do is radicalize people against you, and radicalize normies, radicalize people who are not politically motivated, people who do not have a lot of awareness, and they're just going to be like, oh, why is this gone? Oh, what is this thing happening? Oh, who is our governor, and why is he a spineless, you know what I'm saying? Like, self-editing. And
bleep.
So like, those people are going to start understanding a little bit more of the context, a little bit more about what's going on. Like, we have so many people who are just absolutely oblivious to what their senators' names are, their politicians or representatives, their mayors. Like, they don't know anything. I mean, and as somebody I eat and sleep and live in, like, very prickly leftist politics, like, I do not vibe with the established structure of our politics in this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it blows my mind regularly how many people just have zero visibility towards what's happening in politics.
Okay.
And then something like this comes along, and it like literally becomes the moment in which people start learning people's names, learning history of things, learning about the context of the people go around you, in the same way like an October 7th would, start people on their path of learning about Israel-Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we need right now in this moment, because it also galvanizes and connects people who might be on opposite sides of political lines and start putting them on the same side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to remind everyone that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder. My guest today is Skip, and his company is a Pivotal Character Artworks. We're talking about the entire thing.
We're talking about everything today.
And I do want to take a music break because I want to listen to one of your tracks. This one is Red versus Blue. Can you kind of set up this song for us and tell everybody a little bit about it?
Yeah, this was one of the songs on the album we were mentioning earlier, Until the Very End. This was like our single on it. And it is a song just kind of about like the political system that we have of one side and the other, red versus blue, and some of their similarities and differences, I guess. It also has this really, really awesome sample from an old school black and white 50s grindhouse movie called All Good Girls Go to Hell. Wait, All Bad Girls Go to Hell. It is one of the worst. It's just an absolutely terrible movie, but it has this very amazing sample in it that we use that like 8 or 9 years later was used in a James Bond commercial. So it actually has this really cool, like, it was, we made the sample famous before, it was actually famous.
I'm sure that they heard it from your song. Here we go. This is Red versus Blue off of Until the Very End.
Was to the ground. And was your taste for like pain. Yeah. So much as a really it's what I say yeah. So well, with education and why so difficult, you justify ignorance for everyone's miserable. Daddy provides an evidence what is that sorry is you got it all in this good. There ever been a thing that you done and radio tuner press the flame off on all on. Well, how about it you walk with dick and you guys those catches up quick, my friend, and you should well, I'm here. So I'm point height, you know, pressure. I'm not dead chance. We haven't assumed names. I should not like my height behind. Well, also, I'm a what for two. Well, it's
I got a point dedicated to me. Considering all that at stake. So y'all, I gotta say, hey, what it take, but you would say to be getting on my hairstyle. Look at this little kid right here. And on over there. All than instead and you know, get
right around, they exist in the hottest spot of demon. You don't even know the difference between them. Right.
Did you do that? You confess what you believe in. Our believing is the result of our right thinking or our wrong thinking. And if our thinking is not right, our believing is bound to be wrong too.
What's
All right.
Can I just challenge you to make a new song?
I would love to. It's such a difficult experience being, it's so hard to get one to be good at. It's so hard to like take one thing and to like be able to have a career in it. You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
just doing music full time, but like doing music and art was just impossible. Even doing what I do and like doing work on canvas versus like murals is so difficult to do both of them.
Right.
Like it's like hard enough in this life to be like good at one thing, and the multitasking of it was absolutely impossible. But I think about it all the time of like I would love to do just one more album.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Wow.
But it is such an expensive endeavor in time and resources, much less like recording equipment and gear and all of that kind of stuff like that. And but I do have 2 songs that never got recorded that are stuck in my head, 11 years, 12 years later, and I think about them all the time.
Well, maybe I'm planting a seed right now.
Well, the seed has been there, but just the means and stuff like that. But I would love the opportunity. I would love if life gave me the means and the opportunity to be able to do one more album, and kind of let that live in the world. And for me, like I'm so past the idea of where I was when I was younger with music, of wanting to be, famous,
Of course.
or at least successful to the point in which I could go around the world and I could just live off of it and all of that. But I do love the idea that like you can make something that I still have people with that album tell me how much it means to them.
Yeah.
And, again, we're talking like this is 15 years ago. It's still an album that I love. And I love talking to people about it because, again, I feel so dissociated from.
Yeah. It's like an
being in
alter
that-
ego
right.
almost. Yeah.
But like there are so many elements in it because like for me also being autistic too, like what I get invested in emotionally and spiritually is the process of things. It's not even really necessarily the end product a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Like the journey is what I'm attached to.
Mm-hmm.
But like the journey is hard to be able to get people to connected to that. Like that's it. This is because it's experience based.
Right.
But like the experience of recording this album, the experience of living with, like I don't sit down and just like write a song. I don't just sit down and like write a verse even. Like my brain just doesn't work like that. Like I'm like chipping away at a rock, at a giant slab of marble. You know what I'm saying? Like I am adding to things like one line at a time, like feeling like a song is done and then you have like a melody of wisdom is like, oh my God, I gotta go back there and add that again, It's an album that was done with that, and then also like kind of accidentally stumbling into things, like, oh, that sounded awesome, like try and fit that in there, whatever. Like even like the samples inside that song were from the Reverend Jimmy Swaggart, and I was actually raised in a Southern Baptist cult, essentially. I mean, to be Southern Baptist is to be raised in a cult anyways, but like my father was a pastor, Southern Baptist pastor, and I was raised in that, and I was like a full-on believer in all of that. So like to come across this record, and it was such an old record too, this Jimmy Swaggart record. He was like an old like televangelist kind of guy, right? And this record was so old that it was like a 7, so it was like, what I say, 33 1/3 and 45s are the normal record settings. This was like a 17 3/4 or something like that. It was this weird, super old record for older record players. And so I literally had to, you couldn't just push play. I had to spin the record with my finger while also importing it into the computer. So the record goes sometimes or whatever. It gives it a little bit of charm. But like finding this record when we'd already recorded the song, what's wrong, what's right, like, and talking about this whole idea. And then the song is recorded and we've found this record. We're looking to see if there's any samples on it. And he's like talking about what's wrong and what's right and how to fix it and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, oh my God. This kismet is just destiny. It's like the energies coming together or whatever it is, the universe. But yeah, so like those are like the things that for me, like attach me so much to this timepiece, this milestone of my life and, of music and my career or whatever it is. And, when people are still connected to the music after all this time, I think that you can feel all of those stories and the journey and the growth and the evolution and, coming to all of the final product when you listen to it.
So, one of the things I want to ask you about, because I didn't know that about your upbringing, that you were raised Southern Baptist, and
Right.
one of the things that you were talking about before we went to the song was this idea that regular people are going to be radicalized now, people who have been basically apolitical. And one of the things that I've been like just blown away asking myself the last several years, why, me and a lot of my friends that I grew up with were just super political.
Right.
And so, but then I have a whole bunch of people who just like, they don't even care. They're not even paying attention. A lot of them think that what's happening right now is just politics as normal. They don't realize like the severity of what's going on. And I think it's come down to, for me, is I've wondered if the common denominator is that you grew up in a household that was political, whether it was your political beliefs or not. It was
Right.
still a political household. And because I grew up my dad was listening to Rush Limbaugh all the time, right?
Mine, yeah.
And so I was always exposed to politics, even if they weren't politics that I ended up, adopting for my own flavor. I don't know. Have you put much thought into that, or?
Well, I mean, I think that definitely tracks, just in the fact that, when you're growing up in the Christian church, especially Southern Baptist, especially when your dad's a pastor, the idea of abortion, the idea of the creep of liberalism or communism or socialism or whatever, the creeping tide of the country changing. I mean, there is a very white supremacist undertone to, I feel, I would use the word all, but that's probably not completely accurate, but what feels like all, or an overwhelming majority of white Anglo-Christian religions, or like denominations of Christianity, just as their foundation. So like, yeah, growing up in all of that, there was a hyper awareness to what the responsibility of it is as a Christian, or as a Southern Baptist Christian, in how you impact people that you meet. Like, you are a representative of something, and that you should know the Bible forwards and backwards, and do Bible drills, and go to Bible camp, and listen to Christian music. Like, I was very sheltered. I was not allowed to listen to music that was not Christian until I was like in like high school. But even though I was like sneaking it, like, and literally hiding it like I would pornographic magazines or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's cliche of stuffing that under your mattress or whatever. But mine was like Alanis Morissette CDs and the Fugees and Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever I was listening to at the time. Weezer, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So I was like hiding that from my parents. And so, yeah, I mean, there was a hyper awareness of your responsibility as a Christian, and how you impact people. I used to go just on my own in Miami, in like Opelika, Hialeah area. I would go on my own as like a 12 or 13-year-old kid, door to door on like Saturdays, and invite people to church and stuff, So I would love to say that I was like a black sheep in my family, that I never really like bought into everything, but I was a zealot, man. Like, I was hardcore in, like, I was brainwashed, and I was the other people my age in the church infrastructure were like, yo, dude, calm down,
Right.
But I did not really even have, like, I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 or rated R movies. So like, even my influence to pop culture in the world, or in our country, just in life in general, like the way that our descriptors, our examples, the things that influence us. Like, I didn't have that until I was in my late teens or 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like, seeing certain, like, oh, I remember when I was 10 and I saw this movie. I remember when I was 15 and I saw this movie. It completely changed and shaped all of my perspectives. It's like, I didn't get to see that until I was in my 20s. A lot of what it is that I was doing was like, I've been doing since like the age of 20 to even, into my 30s, was like backtracking, going back. Like, the first time I listened to the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, like, was when I was in my 20s. Like, I missed out on so many things that even my parents enjoyed while growing up, and then later put away. Like, my dad is this a perfect metaphor for him, is that he had this box of records up in the attic that was like Bee Gees and Fleetwood Mac and like all of this really great music, but like he couldn't get rid of it, but he couldn't bring it downstairs, and he couldn't let us listen to it, but like it was just sitting up in the attic collecting dust.
So you just kind of talked about, the radicalization of normies, like kind of this moment around rainbows and art murals being kind of something that might wake up, the regular person. what was the thing? Because you were, radicalized in one direction, and then what was the shift for you? What was your
Being
touch
queer.
point?
Yeah. I mean, I remember the day that I hit puberty. I went to sleep the night before having zero touchstone, zero awareness of human sexuality at all. Just like this naive, innocent little Christian white boy going through life. And then the next morning, it like a ton of bricks, like a sledgehammer to the head, having like the sexual imagination and awareness of like a 40-year-old man. And it was directed at both men and women. And I was an extremely hypersexual, like hyper aware child. And I hated myself for it because I felt like I had no responsibility of becoming that. And I felt like I hated myself because for a while I felt like it was a test from God. I felt like I was being punished for something that I did. Like, again, I told you I was a full on zealot. So having like something like that was completely unavoidable. It was impossible to like not be aware of it. Right. It was so encompassing as part of like what was happening inside of my body and my brain at all times, that I felt like it was a curse from God, a punishment. And so I hated myself in my teens, my earlier teens. Right. And then in my later teens, I started to hate God for doing this to me. Like, how dare you? Like, I loved you more than anybody. I was following your teachings more than anybody. Like, I gave you everything and you did this to me. Like, how dare you? And I kind of felt, I had this feeling like I was kind of, what's that guy's name? Excuse me, I'm having a memory recall issue. From the Bible, Satan and God have a deal, a bet in the background of this one guy. Oh man,
The preacher, the pastor's son is forgetting his
I'm
Bible
blanking.
verse.
Yeah, but he's like, yo, I bet you I can make this guy crack. You always say that you're always so proud of this guy, and about like how he's so indebted and loves you so much or whatever. What if I get involved? Satan says, and God's like, oh, watch, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Do your worst to this guy. He ain't gonna crack. And like, man, Satan just like tortures this. He just kills his wife and his kids and his livestock and just like burns his whole entire, gives him every disease and skin boils and all this kind of stuff like that. Job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't help you with that.
Yeah. Sorry, Job.
I did not grow up in church.
And yeah, he doesn't curse God the whole time, but like I cracked and I was cursing God and it gave me such a thing. Like it made me ask so many questions. And another aspect of it was just queer presence, right? So what I mean by that is I was allowed to watch Wayne's World.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
Wayne's World has a very iconic scene in the movie with Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And it literally was this. It literally was as simple as this. Queen is awesome. Exceptionally awesome. Freddie Mercury is gay. Therefore, gay people must also be able to be exceptional, and therefore that might challenge some of my outlook and belief towards gay people. So it was like, okay, well, I have a certain perspective that falls in line with the Christian church of how to look at gay people as like an othering, as like being lesser than or being immoral or being, of a lesser humanity.
White supremacy.
Right. And then that song, my attachment, like I felt connected to Freddie Mercury. I felt touched. I felt emotionally resonating with this person. And like the song just made me emotionally react and cry and just like, I just fell in love with it. And it was made by a gay man. And so therefore my relationship with a gay man or gay people, a gay community, queer community, was then affected by that song. And I think that in my experience as being outside of normal pop culture, normal culture in general, being a sheltered life, it was always the idea of like, in the 90s, especially the narrative is that queer and gay people are your neighbors.
Mhm.
They're your uncles or your cousins. They're people you work with. They're the people who deliver your mail or whatever. And that really was radicalizing for me, both my own personal experience with my queer identity and sexuality, but then also seeing all of these amazing examples of how some of the best parts of life are the things that I love and resonate and connect on a romantic level with my experience in life. The things that make me feel alive and connected and emboldened are made by queer people. And then once you start getting into the arts, man, it's dangerous. That art and music are like the most radicalizing thing in that area, because you find out that almost all good and art and music have been made by queer people. And it's just, okay, cool. Well, you have to now change your belief system. You now have to grow. You now have to kind of question a lot of the things that you've been brought up to believe and figure out what actually is accurate and real.
Which is something that a lot of people listening who maybe have had judgments and are seeing this for the first time and starting to notice things, they can realize, you know what, I can question the narrative that I've been told. I can question the stories that I've been kind of indoctrinated in,
Right.
and start thinking for myself, and start to maybe, make friends with and ask questions, and don't expect it to be an overnight sensation.
Exactly.
But, a journey, like you said.
And that's why having like figures like Hassan Piker is really super important to being able to stand and be a guardrail for our society, which really propels people towards the right in reactionary politics, to the alt-right pipeline, especially for younger people, which is, I think people will either move towards nihilism and cynicism, or they'll move towards reactionary politics.
Right.
It's very easy to end up in both of those, because if you do have more progressive ideas or more of a humanity or empathy, you can look at the world around you and end up becoming very cynical or nihilistic. Or you can, like that whole stupid expression that if you're not a leftist or a progressive in your earlier part of your life, then you have no heart. And if you're not a Republican or a conservative in the middle or later part of your life, then you have no brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am 43 years old, and I am just as much like middle fingers up against the system as I was when I was a 15, 16-year-old kid listening to Rage Against the Machine, like thinking everything was upside down,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could talk to you forever. We only have a few minutes left because I really want to play the next track on your album for everyone. But I think I would like to just kind of close with, State Representative on Escamani recently posted that we really need not only more fight back from local governments, but also private businesses to open up their walls to artists. And I know that Trina from 7 Bytes has a call to artists right now to paint all of her parking spaces, kind of in a response. I know it's something that I'm working on for my business, is figuring out how to paint the rainbow ramp. And I'm just curious for you, how are you and your fellow artists responding to this crackdown, like in a forward-looking way, right? Are you seeing solidarity, frustration, or new collaborations forming? Like, what's in the future? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, well, right now, my immediate, I have not been able to even, like you mentioned, the 7 Bytes thing, jump onto that project, because I have both the Art Pollination Project, which is a sustainability initiative here locally. So I'm going to be on a giant mural that's going to be on the side of the Orlando City Soccer Stadium.
Nice.
So that's what I'm starting on tomorrow. And then the Orlando Mural Festival is in September as well, too. So those are 2 giant projects that I'm doing. But yes, there is a lot of interest of, how to be able to fight back with DeSantis in the city, and kind of like the looming march towards authoritarianism and fascism nationwide by using the arts, or utilizing the artists to be able to provide that visual interaction with the community. So there's a lot of that that's happening. What I would suggest is, whether you are an artist or not, or whether you have like a budget to be able to hire people to come and do murals, or however that is, I would suggest just Obviously, mural, the crosswalk mural was removed for the Pulse. But there's a lot of focus and police attention on that one intersection of arresting people and putting state troopers and all that. Put a rainbow on every intersection crosswalk you can get your hands on. That's such. I don't mean as a call to artists. I say allegedly. I say maybe, possibly, that would be cool if it wouldn't be crazy or wouldn't whatever. But if people conceptually as a concept took every crosswalk that they could find and make it a rainbow, they can't keep up with that. They literally cannot. They literally cannot even schedule enough Florida Department of Transportation trucks to come and black all of the intersections out, all the crosswalks, whether it is on your city street, whether it is you live in the city, whether you live out on wherever. Find a crosswalk. Allegedly, maybe, it wouldn't be crazy if they became rainbows. And then that's when you fight back.
I've seen people saying they're going to start painting rainbows around potholes and things like that. So the FDOT will put. But one thing that I know that we can do as private citizens is we have control over our own sidewalks leading up to our house, our own driveways, our own, what is on your own property. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was just rainbows everywhere?
Yep, and you do not need to be a professional artist in order to make a rainbow.
Exactly. All right. It has been a delight talking to you, Skip. Where can people get connected with you? What's the easiest and fastest?
My Instagram, social media. So a pivotal character, APIVOTAL character. That's my business. And you can actually go and see, now that's not a call to action, videos of the painting process of the murals that were taken down, the intersection murals and crosswalks in the downtown area. You can see that entire creative process of producing those. Those at the moment are just going to kind of live there. That's kind of like only way where you can see them because they've been painted over.
Right.
So yeah, you can go there. And then my website, you can see more of my portfolio is apivotalcharacter.com.
All right. And this is Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder. We will be posting this entire thing as a podcast on Substack by the end of the week. So thanks again, Skip.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. And this is When It's All Said and Done, off of Skip's album, Until the Very End.